Okay, my name is Jim Akenson. I'm a board member with the Traditional Bowhunter Hall of Fame, and I'm serving in the capacity of Vice President, one of the founders of this organization. And we've been in existence for a couple of years now, but we're growing fast, and we're pretty excited about the future. With me today is Barry Wensel, and Barry is going to be inducted into the Traditional Bowhunter Hall of Fame tomorrow afternoon. And congratulations, Barry, on your induction.
It's been an honor.
Yeah. And I guess for starters, Barry, what are your feelings about being inducted into the Traditional Bowhunter?
In all honesty, I feel a little bit uncomfortable because of the fact I've never considered myself anything special. When your name gets listed with Fred Bear and Howard Hill and Pope and Young, etc., you're in a category that, to me, it's history. And I've been doing this my whole life, but I've never really considered myself anything special. I'm just an avid traditional bow hunter and hunt big game, mostly whitetails, etc. But as I said, it's an honor to be listed with those guys and stuff. So much so that I feel a little bit uncomfortable, in the situation.
Well, we
Appreciate it.
many of us in this community feel that it's very appropriate. For one thing, you've been keeping the ball rolling, and somebody's got to do that job, and you're a perfect candidate for the job. Not only between your writing, but your lectures, your seminars, hunting, mentoring you've done, it's all been fantastic. So we all feel you're very deserving.
Thank you. It's a matter of I'm a little bit discouraged on the kids these days, and I hate to blame it on television, but a lot of the youth today think, because of watching the TV shows, that the only thing you can do, or you should do, is sit on a food plot in a shooting house. And that's okay, but I want to get them in the woods. I want to hand down the woodsmanship skills to the younger guys in hopes that they will take their sons and daughters and go out and put boots on the ground in the woods and show them the woodsmanship skills that they can do for the rest of their lives. So that's a big plus, because if we don't do it, our generation, we're losing it.
Oh yeah.
And then if you look at you go to the national conventions, and a lot of the people are gray head, white heads,
just like us.
Like us, and so it's a matter of us teaching the younger guys, and the younger guys teaching the kids a sport that they can go out for the rest of their lives and pursue. And I use the analogy, it's kind of like ball games. Every kid grows up and they might play sandlot ball or whatever, and then they might play ball in high school, and then if they're really good, college, and if they're really good, end up being a pro or whatever. But then I look at it that, how would you like to be a kid that really, really loves football, knowing that when you turn 30 or 35, you're going to have to retire and, just become an observer.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas hunting is a sport that we can pursue the rest of our lives.
Yeah. So connected to that, Barry, how many years have you been a bow hunter?
I don't even remember. I'm 81 and a half or whatever now. And my brother and I, our dad was an avid hunter and a bow hunter back in the 50s. And I think if the truth were known, I think he gave us bows and arrows because he thought we would get in less trouble than shooting BB guns or 22 pellet guns or whatever. So we shared. I mean, we had started shooting longbows and as little kids, and just never got caught up with. Gene says, it's just like we never put our toys away. We still, are out there, and we never got into the high tech stuff. I distinctly remember, and it was like our dad taught us the basics. But then he just kind of let us go and stepped aside, and he would answer any questions we had. but he would just kind of turn us loose. And I distinctly remember pulling a bow like this, and we had the one bow, and you could put the arrow on either side. I pulled like this, and I pulled it like this, and I don't know what, but this feels better. So that's when
it became right-handed.
Yeah, that's what I went with and stuff. And I've always, and in the same respect, I've always done different styles of shooting. And I remember, gap shooting and snap shooting and point aim, instinctive felt best to me. The same with the split fingers and stuff. Being
It's 300.
It's 300 type of thing, and I split fingers. So we're twins, but still,
But you're a better shot.
No, each a different. Maybe I used to be, but not anymore. I tell everybody I'm high mileage.
Oh yeah.
That's it. Anyway,
Good phrase. I like it.
Anyways, it's something we love, and that's
It's in your blood.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. Yeah.
So, obviously we're a new organization. We should have been around a long time, but we're not yet. Although a lot of us have been around a long time doing this traditional bow hunting activity, and its lifestyle is really what it is. But what insights do you have on preserving our rich traditional bow hunting heritage, or advice that you would have for TBHOF?
First thing I would say is to get the kids involved and make it fun. I mean, there's too many people out there that are too serious.
Yeah.
Competitive
and serious.
Yeah, but I should say, I would like the basics taught, kind of like my dad did. Teach the youth the basics of it, and then step aside and promote it, but let them make their own mistakes and etc. And learn from that, knowing that it's something that they can pursue their entire lives and stuff. There's so many people, especially the younger crew anymore, that are looking for the easy way, and it's too much is too much sometimes, and we just want to go to the basics and learn what works best for us, and then go out and I get a little discouraged, as I said, on the kids that pick me, they're playing their game. They go out and sit in the stand. They're playing it, whatever they do. The games. Yeah. No. I mean, you're missing half of the fun. I mean, the wildlife and the birds and the frost and the morning, etc. But anyway, hand that down through the ranks and stuff, and plant the seed, water it, fertilize it, and let it grow.
Good. Perfect. So kind of along those lines, maybe on a broader scale, what do you think the overall future of traditional bow hunting has in store? I mean, looking 10, 20 years into the future, are we still going to be around, or this being a big part of it?
That's something that really concerns me, because a lot of it depends on the attitude of the receiving end, the kids. If you go out and teach them when it's nice weather, don't take them out when it's 20 below and the wind blowing 60 miles an hour and they're cold and they're bored, etc. Take them out and ease into it. Maybe go look for shed antlers.
Sure.
And then explain. I'll take a kid, and there's a hillside with a rub on it, and you say to the youth, notice that, knowing that deer tend to bed high in the day and come down low in the cultivated fields in the evening, and this rub is on the downhill side of the tree. This indicates that this buck made this rub was going up towards his bedding area rather than coming down towards the feeding area. And they, oh yeah, man, I never thought of that and stuff. Point stuff like that out, and little minute details. I always use the analogy of a doctor looking at an X-ray. You can slap an X-ray up in an X-ray screen, and a doctor can, or any layman can look at it, and yeah, there's the skull, there's the spine, there's the hips, the pelvis, etc. But then a doctor looks at that same X-ray and he's looking for minute fractures or calcium infiltration or degeneration, looking for little details and stuff. Point that out. That's another thing too. As I've gotten older, I've noticed at first I was kind of discouraged about not being able to do what I was physically able to do when I was younger. But in all honesty, nowadays I feel as though slowing down has been beneficial. Take in more details than I would when I was younger. When I was 25, I'd run through the woods and, there's 5 beds over there. Yeah. Okay. So there, now I go over and look at each bed and notice, you can look, it's like the shape of a lima bean or kidney bean. You say, okay, that deer is bedded this way, for this wind, and that one over there was bedded that way. Oh, that one's that, look at that. They got some,
natural history.
covered all our sides security wise and stuff, and you learn from that, how to capitalize on that and so forth. But anyway.
So you obviously put a lot of emphasis on passing it on to youth in particular. And with the youth, what age do you think is appropriate for getting kids started?
A lot of the guys, in other words, it depends on each child has his own personality, and and I don't understand the reasoning behind it, because some kids in a family who are avid hunters, you'll get, well, whatever, 2 boys, and the one boy is eaten up with it, and he can't get enough of it, and yes, please, Dad, can we go hunting? And the next kid could care less and stuff. So in other words, I like to just, feel them out, so to speak, to find out their interest and how hardcore they want to be. And I don't understand what makes the difference. I mean, when you get 2 boys that are from the same parents, raised in the same rules in the same household, and one loves to hunt and the other one loves to watch television, or sports. But just let them do their thing. And then the ones that are avid, they're insatiable. I mean, in other words, that's the ones that you appreciate teaching, knowing that they're going to pick up the ball. They're going to be the ones that can be running. Anyway, that answered it.
Yeah, well, if there was a young person that had it on the table and you were in the room with this young person and they were asked, there's a compound over here and there's a crossbow, and there's, say, a recurve or a long. How would you influence them to pick up this recurve or longbow over?
That's a tough thing, because, as I said, the nature of some kids are that they want to do it the easiest way possible. Unfortunately, first of all, we were talking 3 different pieces of equipment, and I might not be the one to really answer this question the best, because I've never shot a crossbow. I've never shot a compound. Well, I probably shot 3 arrows out of a compound 30 years ago. But again, to me, it's more fun, to pick up just a stick bow or a traditional bow, and to feel your muscles are drawing it back instead of just pulling the trigger. It's like, and I've heard this saying before, when a guy shoots a compound or a crossbow, the weapon goes off. Whereas you shoot a traditional bow and it's like you go off mentally. It's the whole system, your body is a total different ball game.
You're part of the tool.
Correct. So, but unfortunately, as I said, human nature, a lot of times these kids will prefer to go the easy route and stuff. And that's one of the things that really concerns me for our future, right? And stuff. I pray anytime I see a father and son or daughter, kids, that the dad or grandpa is taking the kids out, I mean, I pat them on the back and praise them, and just to kind of fertilize the job that they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
good. Do you know, do you have any insights or ideas on how we can bring about the cultural lifestyle appreciation of traditional bow hunting, perhaps better than we do? I think of your Primal Dreams
Yeah,
piece that you put together and
thank you.
is fantastic. Fantastic stuff. And I still look at it.
Okay. Yeah, pretty good.
Viewed it about 7 times anyway. But
Yeah.
are there things we're missing that somehow we can
Yeah.
better connect with young people?
The same thing I started to say earlier, to make it fun and make it a pleasure to get up in the morning knowing that you're going to see the sunrise, you're going to see game activities, stuff that is happening that you won't see if you slept in that morning. But it's kind of a matter of the tradition for them to know that down the road in the long run, there's more fun. Like the hunts. Let these kids, like I ran these boot camps for 15 years, and I initially started them for the youth, and it pretty much showed itself that the young adults were bringing. In other words, it taught me that the young guys were learning the ropes, and then they were going home and teaching the kids rather than teach the kids. And so I kind of handed it to the fathers and grandfathers to hand it down, through the ranks, etc. But it's just a matter of preserving it and make it like the youth hunts that TBS has.
Yeah.
Absolutely great. I mean, it's such a benefit to these kids will know how much fun's involved.
Yeah.
And if they don't get involved, and it's scary, as I said, some of the cities and what the kids, I mean, when we were kids, we had to deal with cigarettes and beer, and now there's everything, they shoot the stuff and they sniff it and whatever they do, eat it or what,
Yeah.
In fact, somebody handed me some drugs. I wouldn't know what to do with it. But anyway, it's scary that these kids have to make that decision anymore. And the fact that their parents or grandparents that they look up to are the ones that are giving them the pointers or pointing in the right direction, getting them involved and stuff. But get them thinking about how much fun they're having comparatively, and go for the rest. But anyway,
Good.
Hopefully, as I said, it's scary.
And then it's a product of, you kind of have to bend to what's in vogue in society to, I think, in order to get the message across. Now everybody's on screens, whether it's a computer or a phone. And so products such as Primal Dreams, they need to be showing on those media, so they can see this as a hands-on opportunity and not just a video game.
Yeah, right.
You got to go experience it for the real.
Yeah, right. You'll learn more. I mean, in one day out in the woods, boots on the ground, especially with somebody walking next to you and pointing stuff out. You'll learn more one day and out in the woods than you will a month of reading. I mean, I say that to everybody. Go to the seminars. Read the books, watch the TV, or video, or whatever you want, but then get out in the woods and the practical application of what you've read about or whatever. Put the books aside and get into timber and boots are insane. In fact, I've said that before. I've asked this for many years. Somebody will say, what attribute is one factor is most important to maintain the love of a really good whitetail hunter, for example. And I've heard all kinds of answers. Some of them pretty comical, that you had to be wealthy, or you had to be self-employed, or you had to be divorced. That was another one, and a good hunter, you had to be divorced and stuff. But anyway, and the answer, what I've pretty much come up with, is that most of the really, really good bow hunters are thinkers, and they walk through the woods and they think about, they'll look at what they're seeing and think about why that happened and, what the meaning behind it and so forth. And then once you figure that out, all of a sudden the light will go on. Once you figure that out, share it, hand your opinion to your brother or neighbor, hunting partner or whatever, and say, what's your read on this? And then share it, and then hopefully pass it down through the ranks and stuff and let them learn from that point. It's good further on. But anyway.
So in terms of traditional bow hunting as a conservation tool, something that we've talked about before in PDS circles and other circles is the fact that we're not hard on game populations because we tend not to be that successful. You've kind of deviated from that though, because you run a pretty high success rate on whitetail deer.
Well, I've slowed down over the years and so forth. If the truth were known, again, I don't shoot anywhere near as many as I used to.
Sure.
But I remember one year I just whitetail hunted in 8 different states. I was a non-resident in 7 of the 8 states, etc. And I just, again, it's like insatiable. But it's a matter of putting in the time and effort and how much you enjoy it, and kind of go from there.
So, I guess what I was getting at in terms of your numbers of white-tailed deer, which is, I'm sure you don't have track of that, but any rough idea on the number of people you've mentored into bow hunting? It's got to be in the several thousands.
Frankly, it is, I'm sure, because I keep getting emails from, or even guys on the street, I didn't realize I was recognized that much, and it's anymore. I don't know why, but it just seems like people will stop me, or you, and I just hear, is your name Wensel? And I say, maybe.
Yeah, Barry.
Right. But no, again, it's just it's a matter of sharing and etc. I know the a lot of the people anymore. It depends. We have had guys. Gene and I are identical twins, and he's got the goatee and I got the beard and so forth. But people will come up and I remember you guys, and in fact I was going to tell a story sometime this weekend about meeting Fred Barrett for the first time. We just bumped up in Indianapolis. In fact, we bumped into him the day that he just put down the deposit on, he said, nobody knows this, but he said, we're moving the company from Grayling to Florida. We put money down on the new piece of land in Florida, this morning, et cetera.
Wow.
And then another big deal. He offered me a job. He said, if you guys ever want, Gene was there as well. He said, if you guys ever, want to change your mind and not move to Montana, look me up.
Wow.
But anyway, it was.
So you declined that and went to Montana.
Yeah. And that's why I tell everybody, if I'd gone to Florida, I'd probably be retired and do nothing but, hunt and shoot my bow and walk around and, eat, sleep, and hunt. And I know that, actually, that's all I do anyway.
So one thing that we really want this organization to get a solid foundation to reach pretty broadly, not just North America, but other parts of the world. And I'm sure you come in contact with bow hunters that are comparable to you and your brother, or different parts of the planet.
A lot of people, like, they're quiet guys that they do it for their own personal reason. And I won't mention any names, but if I told you his name, you would know him anyway. But I have a friend that he's very wealthy, and he's got 18 Schaefer Silvertip recurves, and he shoots wooden shafts. And what was that? 2 years ago, don't hold me to these figures. But he ended up, he killed 32 Pope and Young bucks one year and 20 something. He killed 52 52 Pope and Young bucks
Amazing.
in 2 seasons, and then got them all mounted, every one of them, and everything. And a guy you never heard of, and it just does this thing.
Pretty dedicated.
Yeah.
Got access to some good places too.
Yes, and multiple states.
Speaking of Paul Schaefer, you obviously knew him well, and I met him. I don't know him well, but he's quite a legend.
Yeah, and a lot of stuff people don't know. This stuff. The funny thing about Schaefer was, first of all, he was one of my best friends, and he lived just down the road for me, and I think a lot of it was he enjoyed the family life that we had. Some of the local his friends, had the wife and the kids, and he just liked the family atmosphere. But he did stuff constantly that the younger generation doesn't know about. I mean, you take a young guy now, and you say Paul Schaefer, never heard of him, but I mean, he passed away in '93, but it was one of those things. Well, let me just tell you, I could list a dozen things that I either saw or my friends saw do that kind of handed down, through the ranks and stuff. In other words, he was very quiet, almost shy at times.
Yeah.
But when he did stuff, it was like our buddies. He would say, hey, you got to see what I saw Schaefer do today. I mean, and it's stuff like the shooting. He was in Africa, and he crawled into a herd of 100 Cape buffalo on his belly, and and he had big bulls at 30 feet all around him. But I remember him saying, he said, I said, that'll make you think, I mean, were you scared? Did it bother you or anything? He says, the only thing I was afraid of, he says, it was so hot, I thought my bow would delaminate. Well, he's drawn on anyway, he shoots the world record Cape buffalo. And then on the same trip, he get his PH, Con Van Wyck they get charged by a lioness, and the Jake shot it with his bow because it was jumping on him, and Con swung the rifle, a 375 round, shot it from the hip, wounded the lion. The lion went up to the PH, was standing mauling, pushed him up against a tree, was mauling him and stuff, and Chase runs up, 20 feet from it and double lunges him with his bow, and the lion dropped Con and ran, and Chase puts another, shoots another one. He actually killed the lion while it was mauling his professional hunter, And then another one of my favorites, the antelope field. He shot they were antelope hunting, and he shot at an antelope, which he thought it was a monster. And the thing jumped the string, and he ended up breaking a leg. And the antelope, it wasn't a lethal hit. The antelope took off, Chase takes off one, and he ran onto it all that day, and he kept trying to get in front of it and getting closer. And finally it got late, and he saw it bed down. He backs off, came back the next day, picked it up, and ran it all day that day. And at the end of that second day, he slipped up on it and finished it off. And they got and there's a guy with them too. It's all documented. But anyway, they got the maps out and went over how far they put the Chase trapped that antelope, and it was 40 miles. 40. I mean, think about it, But anyway, and like I said, the young guys, they can't comprehend. I mean, I don't even put myself in the same class as a guy like that and stuff. And, he just did things constantly. Well, I'll tell you another one that real quick. Would be over his house, and he'd be sitting in. We're talking a 75, 80-pound bow, and he needed to spring it. He wouldn't even get up out of the chair. He would just, do like that and spring it, and then he would pick up an arrow. He'd pull the bow with the handle and put the arrow on the shelf, and he'd knock it on this side like that, and then he'd draw it back 28 inches, and then bring it and then move this knocking one. Unbelievable. I mean, it's almost.
It's just because it's a really sad shame that he died so prematurely. He is going to be inducted.
I hope that the young guys who speaks about it, tells some of these stories because they need to look them up as far as he's in a class all the time. In my personal opinion, he's probably the best all around bow hunter to ever walk the face of the earth. I never saw him make a mistake. Never. I've hung around with a lot of world class bow hunters.
Sure. Well, he had the combination of the mental and the physical. And that's kind of rare.
Yeah.
Did you know Jack Whitney?
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, Jack, he lived in Big Fork, which is 40 miles from me and stuff, and been to his house, again, over the years. But he would, and the best way to say it, everything was just clutter everywhere. But he knew
where, what?
Yeah, he'd be talking about what company sold the certain type of leather.
Yeah.
Well, I got that right over here, and he'd go down a stack this big and pull it out. Knew where everything was, but and Gene he's told the story about Jack. He says, "You ever shoot square arrows?" And he says, "No." He says, "Yeah." He said, "I did the triangular ones and the fair ones and the round ones." He said, "But the square one here, you have to go with 4 fletch." He was thinking, again, one of those guys that's thinking all the time, thinking ahead. What am I seeing? And what if I do this way? Would that improve that? Et cetera. That whole new generation, a whole old generation, I should say, that we're losing them. There's not very many left and stuff, behind here.
Yeah. Well, Whitney sounds like he was quite a conservationist bow hunter too. He was involved in a lot of issues bigger than hunting, really. Land and wildlife conservation.
Yeah, there's a trail. I think it's in Big Fork that named after him or whatever.
Okay. Barry, this has been great visiting with you and hearing all your stories. And we need to expand upon this because obviously we're a little constricted on time here. But I can't tell you how much we appreciate having you and your family here for this induction ceremony. It's really important for this organization. It's important for the history of our culture of traditional bow.
Well, I appreciate it and stuff. And that's a lot of this is about family. And I'm proud I've got 4 members of my family coming today from Australia, so there you go.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's the sharing of it. And hopefully we can hand down our beliefs to the next generation and know that we're all in it partly just for the love of the sport and family and so forth. So I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
My pleasure.